Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review, and today we're taking a look at the brand new NECA The Boys Homelander. And this is kind of dope because this is pretty much the first Homelander action figure that's available to us, and you could go buy this right now at Walmart. I believe that it's a Walmart exclusive for the first couple of months of its release. I think that's how NECA did this. They seem to be doing that a lot lately, and I'm sure that's the case with this figure. And it kind of sucks that you have to go to Walmart to get this, but the one positive is I don't think that this is going to be very hard to get because I feel like it's not the most sought after figure. There's a couple of problems with it that I've seen. We'll see how those things turn out once we actually open the figure up and take a look at it for ourselves. But a lot of people don't like the face sculpts. That's the main thing about this figure. And Mafex has one on the way, so I think a lot of people might be waiting for that one. But let's see how this guy turns out before we start throwing judgment around. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with the packaging. I really like the artwork here. I like how it's kind of based on Homelander's costume with the pattern up here. I think that's dope. Then it says The Boys up top. It says Homelander along with his logo in the center. Ultimate action figure at the bottom. And then we have the Homelander logo again on the side. On the back, we get a look at Homelander himself. We get a little bit of information about Homelander right here, so that's cool. Another thing I like is that they put Bot International down here. I think that's pretty awesome. And then it tells us a little bit about the accessories that he comes with. On this side of the box, it's the same as the opposite side. And then another thing is you could open this up just like all the other NECA Ultimates figures, and then you could see the figure itself. You could see this nice little shot of him doing his thing. And yeah, there's the head sculpts. I don't know. We're going to have to take a close look and see exactly how good they are or bad. Hopefully at least one of them is good. I think this one's going to be okay. So if the other two aren't great, but that one's okay, I could definitely live with that. But anyways, enough about the box. Let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at Homelander. So here we have this piece of shit right out of the box. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the figure, I'm talking about the character, because as far as the figure goes, I think that NECA did a pretty good job with it. Even the head sculpts are nice. When I first saw him and I was looking at him through the box, I was like, man, I don't know about those head sculpts. They do look kind of bad, but once I took them out of the box, put them on the figure, started messing around with them and just kind of looking at them from different angles, I saw that these head sculpts are actually really good. Two of them came out nice. The third one kind of has that laser effect, so you know it's bound to look kind of weird, but the two main head sculpts came out great. I would say the only thing that looks kind of weird about this figure is the legs. I will say that they kind of look a little bit short, and I think that's mostly because of the overlay thing they do around the waist. It's kind of making the legs look a little short because it sits a little lower than it should. But aside from that, I think this is a really good looking figure. So, I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy because I was looking at the figure myself and I wasn't convinced until I opened it and started messing around with it. But yeah, I think they did a great job with it. The cape looks really good. I like the way that it kind of folds and sits right there on his back so you could see the red and the white while you're looking at the front of him. I think that is super dope. And another thing I want to point out is that I had zero problems with his joints. I didn't have to heat up anything. So whatever NECA's doing, like using a new factory or new quality control people or whatever the hell they got going on, they need to keep with it because so far, two NECA figures in a row have been pretty good right out of the box. As I said with Frankenstein, he had one problem with his ankle, and that's it. And Homelander had zero problems at all. Every single one of his joints moved without any problem. I didn't have to do anything. So that was a pleasant surprise, and I really hope the NECA continues on with that because right now, that's really their big flaw. They put out these incredible figures, but then sometimes they break on you, and that sucks. But it looks like they're doing something. They're making a change for the better, and it seems to be working out. But man, I'm very happy with the way this guy looks. It's beautifully sculpted. The cape looks good. The head sculpts are good. I think they did a great job with the way this guy turned out and the way that he captures like the smug, arrogant look of Homelander from the show. So getting in close, starting off with this head sculpt here, I would say that this head sculpt is okay, but it's definitely not perfect. I do like the details. I like the skin tone. I think the hair looks good with the blonde and the brown hair. I think that all looks nice, but the likeness is just a little bit off. A sculptor buddy of mine said that it looks like they had the likeness down, but it just kind of got warped in production. And that tends to happen a lot. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think this head sculpt is horrible at all. It's just not like perfect, you know? But this head sculpt is a completely different story in my opinion. I think this came out really, really nice. I mean, I've seen people complain about this, but I just don't get it. I think this came out very good. You could definitely see the likeness of the actor in there. And I just love the facial expression. It definitely conveys like that dickhead kind of attitude that Homelander has. Look at that. That is a great looking head sculpt. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I have a feeling everyone's just going to say that this head sculpt sucks. But honestly, you guys are mistaken. This head sculpt came out really good. I'm with you on the other one. The other one isn't great. I mean, it's okay, but it's definitely not great. You know, it's far from perfect. But this one here, it's pretty close to perfect. I think this came out very nice. The details are very good. The skin tone looks good. I will say that some of the brown on the blonde hair did get a little sloppy, especially on this side. You could see that they got a little crazy with it. But as for the face itself, I think that's a great looking face sculpt. But then moving down into the rest of the body, I love the way the suit looks. I like the texture on it, and I like how his muscles look a little exaggerated. Obviously, he's a big, strong guy in the show and everything, but the suit he wears kind of looks puffy, and I'm sure, you know, that's intentional. You know, they're trying to accentuate Homelander's muscles to make him look more heroic and stuff like that, and I think this figure captures that idea very well, because the muscles look big and weird, kind of. But they look accurate to the show, you know, so I think that came out nice. I love these shoulder pads too. I like this bronze look that these eagle heads have, and they're on both sides. And they're soft plastic, so they do get out of the way of the articulation. They hinder it a little bit, but not a whole lot. But man, I think they look amazing. And then moving down into the rest of the body, we have some really nice sculpting work and texture throughout the whole figure. All the paint work is nice. I didn't have any paint imperfections on this guy. Right here on the belt, we have the eagle, the Homelander eagle. Then we do have this piece, which I think I might need to trim this a little bit. We'll see. Oh, look at the eagles on his feet. That is super dope. Some really nice paint work on this guy. And some amazing sculpting work. And then here's a look at the cape. The cape looks really good too. I like the material. It doesn't feel like cheap or anything. It looks very nice. And yeah, man, I think this is a great looking figure. Let me know what you guys think of this head sculpt. Am I completely wrong, or what's the deal? I'm really curious to know what people think about this head sculpt. I'm not talking about the other ones because, you know, like I've already said, you know, I could acknowledge this one's not perfect. And then the one with the laser eyes does look kind of weird because it's got the laser eye effect around the eyes. But this one right here is really, really nice in my opinion. And for accessories, aside from the two heads that we've already looked at, Homelander does come with the third head. And with this one, you're able to plug in these laser blast effects into the eyes, and you can make it look like he's shooting laser beams. And this is a very cool effect. It's fitting for the character. We have seen this before. We've seen this same effect with the NECA Superman figure. I liked it then, and I like it now. I'm happy they included it with Homelander because that's such a big thing that he does. He's always running around just lasering people and stuff. So I'm happy that they threw that in there. And then he also comes with two different sets of hands. First off, we have a set of open hands and then a pair of fists. And since there aren't a bunch of figures from the boys for me to compare Homelander to, I'm just going to compare him to a bunch of different figures. So first off, we have him alongside the recently released NECA Frankenstein. I have a review for him on my channel now. Be sure to check that out. On the opposite side, we have the NECA Golden Angel Predator. And then next up, we have Homelander alongside the McFarlane Toys Mortal Kombat 11 Spawn and the NECA Ultimate Ghostface. And then here we have him alongside the Beast Kingdom Dynamic Action Heroes Dark Knight Joker and the McFarlane Toys Grim Knight. I figured that maybe you could use Grim Knight up against Homelander since, you know, the boys is basically like a parody of superheroes and this Batman is some kind of weird different version of Batman. I don't know, it seems like it could work against Homelander for some reason. And then next up we have Homelander alongside the NECA DC vs Dark Horse Superman and the McFarlane Toys Superman. And then for the final size comparison, of course, we have the Marvel Legends Pizza Spider-Man and Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And even though articulation isn't necessarily this figure's strongest quality, there are a couple of surprises here, so I think it's pretty decent. But let's go ahead and take a look, starting off with the head. Just like Frankenstein, he does have the double ball peg neck setup, which means that he has movement at the lower neck and at the upper neck. Unfortunately, the lower neck is restricted by the collar, but we still get pretty good movement at the head itself. So as you can see, he could tilt his head a really good amount. It can move side to side. And then check this out. You can get him to look up a really good amount, which is very helpful for flight poses. So that's pretty good, and that's way more than I was expecting out of this neck joint. Look at that. That's good stuff. And then he could look down to about right there, so he can look at all the pathetic humans that are beneath him. So that's pretty good. And yeah, I like the head and neck setup here. A lot of good stuff going on. And then for the torso, that's where things get a little restricted. So basically, all he has is a ball joint at the waist. There is a diaphragm cut under the overlay, but the overlay is so thick that the diaphragm cut is pretty much useless. You're not going to get any movement out of that at all, pretty much. I couldn't get anything going there. So he only has movement at the ball joint at the waist. So just using that, it can go side to side to about right there. I mean, that's pretty good considering that the torso just looks like a solid piece. There's still pretty decent movement there. And then you could get him to crunch forward a little bit more than I was expecting. Look at that. That's, you know, when you look at it, you don't see any movement. It just looks like a solid piece. So when you start to move him around and you get even just that little bit of crunch, it's kind of like, oh, okay. I do wish that we were able to get more out of this, and I might pop him apart and see what I could do to improve the torso articulation. But just as it is, you know, it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's a little bit more than I was expecting, but still not a whole lot. And then going back, you could get it to go back to about right there. And you want to be careful pushing it too far in any direction, because as you can see, the overlay kind of comes up above the belt and it could get caught. So then you have to kind of be mindful of that, and then just be careful when you're moving it around. But yeah, even though the torso doesn't get a whole lot of movement, it still makes it so that he doesn't feel like he's just like stiff, you know, or just standing up straight, or just like stiff and awkward. You could still get a little bit of movement, and it's helpful for flight poses and just kind of getting them in like natural, different kind of situations, you know. So again, it's not ideal, but I think it's not totally useless either. It's slightly better than I was expecting when I actually laid eyes on the figure. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna pop this apart and see if I could add something to that. Yeah, so there you go. The torso is pretty restricted. It gets a little bit of movement, but I do wish that they did something different there. And then for the arms, let's get him back situated here. We don't want to piss off the Homelander. He'll do some crazy shit, so let's get him squared away. Get his cape all nice. There we go. So now for the arms, they do go all the way around. He does have these shoulder pads that restrict the movement a little bit, but not as much as you would think. So even with the shoulder pad, his arm comes up a really good amount. One thing you want to be careful of when you're bringing his arms up is the cape. You don't want the shoulder pads to get caught on the cape. So as it is right now, they're just kind of traveling on top of the cape, and they're kind of pinning it down actually. So that works out pretty well. But yeah, that's pretty good considering that he has some shoulder pads. I didn't think that he'd get his arms up this high. So there we go. And then he does not have any type of upper bicep swivel. You're going to get the swivel at the elbow here. So there's that. And then he does have double jointed elbows, which get a pretty good bend. So that's not bad at all for the elbows. He does have a swivel at the lower part of the elbow as well, but it's a little redundant because he has a swivel at the wrist and a hinge as well. So if you want to move his hand around, you're just going to do it at the hand itself, not necessarily from the forearm swivel. I think it's just the way they constructed the joint, which, you know, makes it end up that way. So, you know, it's fine. But yeah, the arms are pretty good. And then for the legs, he does have this piece that NECA likes to use around the waist that covers up the ball joint. So it does restrict the articulation in the legs a little bit, but for the most part, I think it moves a good amount. So as you could see, you could get him to do the splits. You could get him to kick forward to about right there, but then that overlay piece does stop it. And you know what? I might end up trimming this overlay piece, and that might help to make the legs look longer, because as it is right now, I think that overlay piece is coming down too low, and that's what's making the legs look so short. But anyways, the legs do come up to about right there. They come back to only to about right there. And then he does have upper thigh swivel that's very nicely hidden. He's got double jointed knees. Bam, they get a really good bend. And then at the foot, we have rocking ankles. And then you could bring his foot forward to right there. You could bring it up to right there. And, oh, he does have a swivel, but it's at the lower part of the knee joint. Just the same way they construct the elbows is the way that they construct the knees. So you're going to get a swivel at the upper knee and at the lower knee. So there you go. So like I said, the articulation definitely could have been a lot better, but there are a couple of surprises here. So as I said at the beginning, I think it's decent. He's definitely fun to handle and mess around with, but it's a lot of work to get him into any kind of interesting poses. So it would be nice if he had a little bit more going on, but I think, you know, I think they did an okay job with the articulation. as long as you could get him into some cool flight poses, I think we're good to go. And this figure can definitely achieve those type of things. So, alright, so obviously, this figure is far from perfect. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It does have a couple of flaws. The two big flaws for me is the lack of torso movement and the legs being a little bit on the short side. But aside from those two things, I actually like this figure. I think that it came out pretty good. It's a good representation of Homelander from the Boys TV show. I think the head sculpts are a lot nicer than people are saying. To me, it looks like Anthony Starr, so I'm okay with it. I like the way the figure looks. I do wish that he was a little bit more fun to handle, but when I saw him, I thought that he was going to be completely useless as far as posability goes, but to my surprise, you could definitely get him into some cool poses, but I think they could have done a little bit more with it. But yeah, I like him. I think he came out cool, and it's nice to finally have a Homelander figure. A lot of us have been like fans of the Boys TV show or the comics, and there hasn't really been any action figure representation for those characters. Finally, NECA came along and gave us something. Yes, we have a Mafex figure on the way as well, but who knows when that will come out. It could be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. It could take forever, and when it does come out, it's going to cost like 90 bucks, so it's expensive. So it's nice to have a less expensive, more affordable option out there that's pretty good. So even though he's not perfect, I think it's a good representation from the show, and I'm happy to have it. But I am looking forward to the Mafex one, but for now, this one's going to hold it down. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Also, be sure to hit the bell notification so you know every time that I go live. If you're not aware, I do go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and every Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So come through, hang out, let's talk about toys and get weird. Peace.